Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. I'm here live with Ryan Goolsby, the founder of LFA, formerly known as LFS. At least that's what I knew it when I met you. We've known each other for like 5 years.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
It's been fun to be friends and get to know you while you've created this amazing new business that has changed life in a lot of ways for a lot of people here in the Ozarks.
Well, some people definitely seem to appreciate it. No, it's definitely changed my life. So it's in some ways taken over my life.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But no, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Do you see that? Do you see that you've changed lives? Because I feel that way when I think about the scope of what you're doing. I know you're kind of in the beginnings of it, at least in your mind. But I know for us, I mean, we can just make an order to you and get amazing products delivered to our door.
Okay, I mean that sure sounds convenient, but is it life changing?
It's life changing because of what it represents. It's like combining that insane efficiency and convenience of Amazon with all the things that a lot of us moved here to the Ozarks to experience. Like getting local food from local farmers and people that we trust.
Yeah, and there's no farmers markets out here in the rural spaces.
Yeah, like the farmers markets that we go to, they're always pretty disappointing.
Yes, that's definitely a word I would use.
Yeah. I feel like you know a lot about that because you tried to work with the farmers market.
To some degree, yeah. Let's see, I've been here 10 years now. Came down to develop a farm with my brother. Orchard is kind of what I'm most interested in, and permaculture. But in the meantime, we have a garden and just growing stuff and taking it to roadside stand or farmers market. We never really did any of the big farmers markets. We didn't have enough. But the experience doing roadside stands around here was depressing. Yes.
What made it depressing?
Sitting somewhere in the hot summer, preferably in a tent, but not always, with food spread out, which was good when I picked it, but as the day progresses, it gradually deteriorates. Salads and stuff will just shrivel up if you don't have it ready, and it's just kind of depressing. Sitting on the side of the road all day for less money than I could working part-time at a fast food chain. So that's a little bit depressing and challenging in that regard.
Yeah, right. On every front.
Yeah.
You're losing product and you're losing time and money.
So, there had to be a better way to do that.
Right. So that's what you created. Why don't you tell the audience, for people who have no idea what LFA is, what is it?
Well, Little Farm Association is a group of about 40 different farms at this point, combined into a network to present an online farmers market where you can go on and order from all of the local farms, and we consolidate it and bring it to your house once a week. So that in a nutshell is what it is.
Very succinct. But you're also you're creating a community of farmers. And you told me yesterday that was really what the challenge was of the last 10 years, because you've had this vision for a long time, right?
No, I moved down here with the vision of developing a network like this. Never really having any farming experience. Decided, why not network a bunch of other farms together and put it into a online store in essence. But yeah, it's been a challenge meeting them and getting people to think of other ways to do things. We don't move enough food to be their only outlet, so we're not moving enough food where they still have to go to farmers market. So our mission's not complete yet in that regard, because a lot of the farms which I've come in contact with, they really want to farm. They want to be on the farm growing food, and they don't want to be sitting in the sun in a tent selling food.
As you described, right?
Yeah, most times, they're a little bit better equipped if they're professional to doing that. We were just starting, so we hadn't even learned the lessons of that one yet. But yeah, they don't want to do that. They want to spend their time on their farm with their family doing their thing. I mean, it takes a day and a half at least to do a day of market, and that's a significant portion of a week. When there's plenty of things to do, there's never an end to do. There's never an end to the list of things to do on a farm.
Yeah. I feel like I have a really good understanding of your vision of bringing it from them to the customer. You want to tell the audience a little bit more about that? Because I feel like that's a big part of this, like I said, convenience, making local small farming feasible.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the buyer side of things, it's as convenient, and everyone knows how to use Amazon. You go there and you sign up, you create an account, and you shop, and you say check out, and voila, it comes to you later that week. A lot goes on behind the scenes, but it's pretty simple on that front. And each of the farms have their story. You can see what they do and how they do it, and just kind of their goals and whatnot. So it's more than just that. You can see where the food's coming from and get the story of it, in addition to how it's grown. Because I know health is really important to a lot of people, and no one that I know of wants pesticide on their food. They want to know the practices, how the food's grown and where it comes from, and those types of things. So we provide all of that.
Right. I know you've had to learn a lot of stuff behind the scenes, like you just said. I've worked with you a little bit on the software end, and just seeing all the systems that you've created. It's you are living the life of the entrepreneur, aren't you?
Yes. Yep. At least that's my perspective of it. I haven't seen many other entrepreneurs and how they live, but I assume it's kind of like this, where it's as many hours as possible all the time. Kind of like farming, but in data management and spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. Communication. It takes a lot of time to connect all of this behind the scenes.
So when you imagined this business, 10 years ago, did you imagine that these were the things that you would be doing, the challenges that you'd be facing?
To some degree. Nothing is like living an experience to learn the lessons of it. And a lot of the details, there's so many details which I wouldn't have thought of ahead of time. And it takes going through the process of what it takes to bring stuff from the farms to the people, to know all the little details.
Right. And it sounds like you're doing your best to streamline it and create a system that allows it to be replicated, right?
Oh yeah. No, the goal is to get a working model where other folks who are interested would be able to set one of these up in other locations and connect with the farms there and replicate like that.
That's beautiful.
So, big ambitions, but it's almost ready to start.
Almost ready to start? You don't think you've started already?
I've barely started, yeah.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Well, you've made a lot of progress. In how many years has it been? 2, 3?
In this iteration, it's been about 3 years that we've been operating.
When did you start it? When was it founded, would you say?
Well, I mean, at what point? Because there was the farm-to-table restaurant before, so that was a previous iteration of the little farm store, where we were kind of trying to do the same thing, but the restaurant took too much of our attention, and we really couldn't do this aspect.
Right. Well, I feel like the revolutionary idea is they really farm to door, the farm to table. Everybody's heard of that in a restaurant. But the farm to your door, that was a revolutionary thing, at least for me as a consumer of your product. So when did that start? I think that was
just 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Fall of 2020.
In July of, what would that be? Yeah, 2022.
July. Yeah. Awesome. So, Ryan, you've been thinking about fixing the food system for over a decade. What is fundamentally broken?
Well, I wouldn't say it's broken exactly. It does what it does very well. It brings food from across the world in a big commercial fashion to everywhere all at once all the time. And does it as cheaply and efficiently as possible. I mean, it really is quite the marvel of engineering. However, the side effects of it are not that great. inferior food quality, things which people don't want to eat but are, empty food. I mean, depending on how far you want to go into it, you could also talk about like the medical ramifications of unhealthy food and food ignorance. Because the further you get from producing your food, I don't know, the less you know food. You don't know what people, like broadly right now, people are losing the ability to cook. A lot of people don't know how to prepare raw vegetables. And that's astounding to me. But what the commercial food system does is bring them products which they can eat very well, very efficiently, and very cheaply. But another dysfunction there is that cheap part. I mean, there's all kinds of incentives for inferior products, and it's just not great. But it does what it does really well. It brings calories to people very well from across the world. And I love avocados. Just got to say that. Can't grow avocados around here.
Yeah, what did you say? You said food shouldn't be shipped at all.
Except avocados.
Except avocados.
And pineapple, I suppose. And I'm sure there's other things too.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's no such thing as all bad or all good, right? Mm. But like you said, I think, and the real problem is what's hidden, the hidden problems of the industrial food system. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it leads to these kind of chronic health problems that people don't really know why they have them, like cancer's on the rise and heart disease, all these things. And I know that also the health of the planet and the health of the soil and the air, mm-hmm. People say that our soils are depleted. You probably know something about that, right?
Yep. Turns out if you plow for, the last 100 years with tractors, the soil tends to run downstream. Mm. I mean, that's just like a scratching the surface of it. Because, the big mass agricultural companies, they grow in they don't grow in soil, really. It's all just growing medium, and they put fertilizer on to make the plants grow, and they put pesticide on to keep the plants alive. And that's not healthy for anybody. I mean, that's not real food. And I guess on the other side, like confined animal feeding operations, it makes for meats which are imbalanced. It's really not as healthy for you. Like the omega-6s versus omega-3s in beef. All beef has omega-3 and omega-6, but it's the balance in there which makes it healthful or not. And if you raise beef in a confined, stressed space, wallowing in their own filth, being fed food which is high calories and fattens them up, but really isn't great for them, they're not very healthy. And that stress is not as healthy for humans either.
It's fascinating you put it in those like biochemical terms. I don't know if you know, I've told you I'm a biomedical engineer.
You mentioned it, but you haven't really explored that a whole lot with me.
Yeah, well, I've kind of left it behind, but I'm realizing with this work that it's actually very relevant to apply, science and engineering to some of these things that people usually don't think about them as. So I feel like most people have this concept that industrial, the meat system.
CAFOs.
Yeah, that leads to poor quality meat. But what you're speaking to is really a specific measurement, right? The omega-6 versus the omega-3 ratio that's measurable, that we can see why this meat is better than this other meat in a very specific way. That's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you can look at that in any realm of the food system. The bigger you get, the worse the food is for you. It'd be a good rule of thumb, though. I'm sure there's exceptions.
The bigger, you mean the company?
The company gets, yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, small, decentralized food system, even though the volume is less, the quality would be so much more. They can put more attention to the details, not just the bottom line. So all the beef producers we work with, they know their animals, they treat them well, they're on pasture, they're fed well, and it makes for better products. And same thing goes for gardens. It may not look as good sometimes because the lack of pesticides and herbicides which is sprayed on it, but they're every bit and more healthy. And better for the environment too. I mean, all the stuff is better.
Yeah, healthy for everybody involved, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no argument there. I mean, I think you might know I started a restaurant in Chicago, and it was based on that idea. And literally, the reason I started was because somebody handed me real locally sourced food at some point, and it changed my life because of the taste of it was just so much better, and I could just tell immediately. So I feel like most people who've experienced this agree with that idea that the food should be coming from local sources.
Yeah, I think so. But there's challenges to it, that's for sure. How can the 150,000 people in Springfield get their food locally? It's a logistical challenge, that's for sure. And production too. I mean, there's not near enough farmers. Not to feed an actual city.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's kind of happening in a natural way because people are slowly becoming aware of it. You know, if everyone tomorrow demanded local food, it would be a mess. But hey, the problem would get fixed faster, right?
Definitely. I mean, there'd be a waiting list, but it would definitely get fixed faster.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing that we talked about that's fascinating, is relevant to what we're talking about now. You know, a lot of these farms, these small farms that were created, they were created because people had a health crisis, right?
Often that is a common story. We connected with some folks out in Mountain View this last, 2 weeks ago, and they had a health story which is less common. They actually had a wheat health story. Wheat has gotten a lot of bad reputation lately for I don't know, all kinds of things, but general inflammation, and people are moving away from breads in general. But turns out if you get the right wheat grown properly and handled in the right way, it's also a superfood. I forget the exact details of her illness, but they got into regenerative grown foods for health. The microgreens producer, which we work with, Ron, same type of situation. He started growing microgreens because of illness in the family, and through microgreens and super nutrition, basically bounced back from life-threatening situations.
That's awesome. I love those microgreens, by the way. They're so delicious.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a treat to have those delivered to the door. But that's really interesting what you said about wheat, because I've always felt that way. You know, there's all these people who say they're gluten-free, and I'm sure it's a legitimate allergy, but I feel like maybe some of it's coming from all the Roundup that's poured into that industry, and I'm sure you know even more about the mess of the wheat industry.
For the my favorite example in the wheat industry is after the grain is grown and it's all nice and ripe, they spray Roundup all over it and desiccate it. Because they will just kill it all, and the poison dehydrates it and makes it easier for the next step for them to get the wheat out of the plant.
It's fucking terrifying, to be honest with you. That's awful. Yeah. That's awful. All right, well, we got to show some love to our chat here. We got a whole bunch of people in the chat. We're live with you guys, so any questions you have for Ryan, we're going to relay them. That's why we do it live, is for the live viewers. So I'm going to read off your chats. Let's see here. We've got Ian and Hannah and Eleanor and Alexander and Timothy and Hannah and Susan.
Hello.
And Memory Man. Let's see if we have any questions. Just a lot of love. Says good evening. Hi. We love Little Farm Association. Love you, Ryan. Alexander says. Tim says hey. Susan says hi. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you. I think you've met her before. That's my mom, by the way. Tim says there's nothing like living in the experience for learning.
Yes. You learn it thoroughly.
Yeah. Eleanor says, so when we buy a giant box of organic spinach for cheap at Costco, and it looks beautiful and clean, and so vibrant, what's going on there? It seems like organic is in, and the big market is responding. How does it look so good and healthy, quote unquote?
Well, they have their ways. I can't speak to spinach in a commercial sense very thoroughly. Leafy greens in general, they're one of the easiest things to grow commercially and make them look beautiful. the water quality and whatnot make it a little bit more susceptible to things like salmonella and totally rare diseases, which are not diseases, sorry, totally rare illnesses which take its impact on you. But generally, they're safe.
Safe, but are they good? I mean,
depends on how they're grown, and I mean,
yeah.
I can't say for sure how the spinach is grown, honestly.
Right. And I feel like that is ultimately the problem. It's like, it says organic, it looks good, but you just don't know. You just don't know what the farmers are doing, and that level of anonymity, it doesn't seem great.
For sure. I mean, it's hard to communicate that kind of stuff in mass, for one. But guaranteed it's not going to be as good as the stuff that you can get locally from, like, living soil. It seems like commercially, one of the similarities between a lot of different commercial scale operations is it's not being grown in living soil. It's grown in a medium of some kind, and it's fed. So depending on what they're feeding it with kind of determines what the nutritional profile is. I mean, that's kind of broadly applicable to all food.
You expand a little bit more on that. What do you mean by living soil versus a medium?
Well, medium being something which just holds the plant and in the roots and all that kind of stuff. And then you bring the nutrients to it and feed it. Living soil, on the other hand, is like a ecosystem filled with, millions of different critters with natural nutrition, and the micronutrients and all of the most healthful things are much more dense in a living, diverse system than they are in a sterile growing environment.
But I get this feeling that you're speaking about even like plowed fields. Is that what you mean?
To varying degrees, depends on how much you plow it. Because when you plow it, it turns everything up and it oxidates all the nutrients. A lot of the, you could speak probably more on the chemical side than I could technically, but oxidization ruins and kills all kinds of stuff in the soil, which is also part of how the nutrients get released, because all of the stuff which is bound up in organic matter gets broken apart and basically burned off. But I don't know, living soil is like a thriving thing. Everyone knows about the mycelia. I think it's been one of the best, what would you call that? I don't know, popularity boost. Like, there's been such a huge education on fungus over the last 5-10 years. I'd be surprised to meet someone who didn't know what mycelia was.
Mycelia is it's the fungus, right? It's a network of fungus. And does that bring more nutrients to the soil, is my understanding?
What it does is it builds a network. Because as the mycelia spread through the soil, there's like pockets of minerals and pockets of this and pockets of that everywhere, and the mycelia actually transport it and transport nutrients between plants. It really is kind of like a logistics of a living soil.
And I'm guessing when you plow, that doesn't exist, right?
Nope. Generally, it'll break it into small bits, and like cutting all the roads off. Like think of our logistics and cut all the roads. Just, you couldn't transport anything anywhere.
Well, if you want to put out, propaganda for your business, I mean, that idea that basically all food around the world isn't really being grown in living soil, that's a very simple but powerful truth.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's many people more, visible than I, which are producing that educational message. I mean, Ray Archuleta lives not too far from here, and he's big into that world.
Well, don't sell yourself short, because we got a whole 9 people watching.
Oh boy.
Thanks for joining. All right, so and every single one of them counts. I'm happy to have every single one of you here. That's for sure. Let's see. Memory Man says plants give all the medicine we could ever need, and then he has Roundup surrounded by death skulls. You got that right. Eleanor asks, can you talk a bit about the organic label and what it means nowadays, if anything?
It means it's a step better than conventional. So, I mean, I would get organic over not organic. But I think it has definitely lost a lot of what it was originally intended for. It's been definitely, it's succumbed to corporate capture and special interests, I would say. And so you have to go through all kinds of hurdles. Small farmers can't really, not effectively. It's in the marketplace, it's a mechanism which keeps smaller producers out, keeps a premium to those who can. And while the nutrients going into it are definitely better, I would say much better than conventional, it doesn't mean what the image means. But I can't really speak many details per se.
Yeah, that's an important point. It's like, on the one hand, it's good that they have to make an effort to get that label, but on the other hand, it takes a lot of effort to get that label, so smaller producers can't put organic on a lot of their stuff. Right?
Yeah. So many of our producers, we call it organically managed, because you get in trouble if you call things organic and are not actually certified organic.
Right.
Regulators will come down on you.
Mm-hmm.
So we're organically managed. Many of our producers are organically managed.
Right.
Which is everything besides the paperwork.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. And that capture, I was shocked, and maybe you can verify this. Someone said to me, I forget who it was, but they said that basically if a company tries something organic, like a pesticide, if they have a pest problem, they try the organic pesticide, and if it doesn't work right away, they're allowed to use the standard pesticide because they tried, and then they still get to label it as organic.
Maybe. I don't know. I can't speak for sure on that. It's not where I put my attention. I don't put my attention to the specifics of organic regulation because I know I don't want to go down that path.
Yeah. And obviously, your products are, in my opinion, way higher quality than what's labeled as organic.
They're transparent. Is the thing is there's actual what it is. It's I don't know, it's presented exactly how it's grown. You can talk to the farmers. You can go out to the farms with a little bit of notice. So try that with a big organic producer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see what's going on in the chat. We got a lot of chats here. Let's see. Susan says that's disgusting regarding wheat spray. Yeah.
Yeah.
She has the same reaction as me. When do we
buy organic wheat if you have to? If you want to get wheat, buy at least organic wheat.
Yeah.
Regenerative is even better.
Yeah, and again, it's like you don't know for sure that the organic wheat hasn't been sprayed by Roundup. I mean, I don't want to spread this rumor. This was something somebody told me. I haven't verified it, so I'm going to have to look into that question. But I think it's important that we all, as citizens, kind of hold the organic industry to account. Are they doing what they say they're doing? And if they're not, they deserve to lose our business,
Well, vote with your dollars.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Alexander says, when do we get an Arkansas chapter?
Working on it. You're top of the list for who I'd like to run it.
No, that's nice. All right. Cool. That's a big one on you. If you want the chapter, it sounds like you're gonna have to create it, my friend. Memory Man says, not seen this channel before, I think. Well, like and subscribe, everybody. Like and subscribe to The Way of Service. I hope you enjoy this. I think I'd like to do more interviews. I'm realizing that that's something that I should probably be doing. So I was very excited to bring Ryan live in our advanced studio here. Mm-hmm. So
pulled me out of my office and into yours.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. Renee's here. She says, turning in late, but I made it.
Sweet.
Memory Man says, fungus among us. As I understand, the mushroom is just the sex organ of the organism.
It's the fruiting body, I think, is the technical term, but it's spores, and so it's the result of reproduction. So yeah, you could call it that.
Fruiting bodies.
It's fruiting bodies.
Eleanor says fungus among us. Timothy says mycelium is the vegetative part of a fungus. Right. So he's saying that mycelium is the other part of the fungus, the vegetative part, which is the majority of the fungus, vast majority. Mm-hmm. And then what we eat in the store as mushrooms are the fruiting body, or the, what did memory say? The sex organ. All right. Memory Man says, yeah, if you think the organic label food is actually not organic, imagine how polluted non-organic labeled is. Oh, that's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah. Susan says, lots of rules and regulation. Yep. Timothy says, the mushroom is the fruiting body of the fungus. Right. Susan says, you said regenerative wheat. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Susan, for that question, because you said organic wheat is good, but better is regenerative wheat.
Mm-hmm.
How would people go about finding that?
It's becoming a label. It's becoming a recognized word like organic used to be. And there's principles. There's a couple of organizations which are doing like regenerative certification. These folks over in Mountain View, which I talked about earlier, we connected with them looking up wheat in Missouri because we're always looking for more farms and trying to get staples, finding all the different products which we can bring to Little Farm Association, and wheat and rice being one of them. And we came across a wheat farm in northern Missouri, and we found this folks in Mountain View which were selling their product, and Mountain View is a lot closer. So that's how we connected with them. But there's actually a regenerative wheat farm in Missouri. They were in a couple of the newspapers recently, or magazines.
I have not seen that label. I'd be really interested to see.
It's just starting.
Very cool. I know I've heard that word from our good friend Tim, who's in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
He put that in the name of his farm. So that's really cool. So what does that mean, regenerative? Can you expand a little bit more on what that means?
It's focusing on the life of the soil and the life of the ecosystem more than like the mechanical like nutrients, nitrogen, potash, phosphorus. Instead of looking at it like from a chemical standpoint, it's looking at it from like a relational soil biology standpoint, broadly speaking. And there's different practices like winter cover crops is one of the most well-known methods of keeping the soil alive and feeding it and improving the soil through growing things. And then the crop which you plant in that soil is that much better because you're treating it well the rest of the year.
That's awesome. Yeah, it reminds me of the study of biology, which is the reason I was always fascinated by science, but I felt like biology was the most interesting, basically because nobody can actually figure it out. Because there's just so many moving parts, and instead of trying to, like you said, delineate this chemical and this chemical and this chemical, just embracing the way that nature does it, really, is what we want to do.
Complex systems generally stabilize themselves. So, yeah. Can't really speak too much about that either, but looking at the forest instead of the trees is another way to look at it.
Yeah, well, I think most people have this kind, at least I do, have this like intuitional understanding of that or desire for our food to be like that, like connected to the mycelium, just as a simple example.
Well, as close to living as possible in some ways. Like my favorite lettuce is the ones which come with the roots still attached. They last longer in the fridge. They taste better because they're still alive, technically.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Beef, I prefer dead.
Yeah, well, some people don't agree with that, actually. Eleanor says, I missed a bit at the beginning. Have you talked at all about the company building effects of LFA?
Company building effects? Like,
I'm not sure if she means, like... Yeah, Eleanor, why don't you clarify what you mean? Oh, community. Sorry, I misread it. Community
Gotcha.
Building effects of LFA. There we go.
Okay. Well, I mean, really what we do is connect farmers with buyers, and it's a relationship between them. We just happen to be the mycelia, bringing the food from one place to another. So it's a relationship and it's community building, bringing the farms as close to the people as possible. I mean, it's kind of abstract, I suppose, but for like practical terms, we bring their story, the farmers' stories to them, and we bring feedback to the farmers, requests and that kind of stuff. But as far as like community goes, we also host picnics and dinners, and we bring people together to actually meet each other. For pretty much all of history until the last little while, food has been a communal thing. But every social event has food. If you want people to show up to something, feed them. So food is something which is like integral to human society and culture, and meeting other people over food is even better. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned those events that you guys throw, because that's a big deal. I feel like there's something, we talk about this on this channel, like there's an energy exchange that happens when you actually meet the person who sells you the food,
Well, real human connection is so much better than just checking out on Amazon, even though that's super convenient. But building relationships is kind of, it's part of the whole objective of what we're doing too. We're focused on developing like local economies and communities and just building up where we live. And community's missing in a lot of people's lives. Good food's missing in a lot of people's lives too.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's a big challenge, I think, today, is feeling like you have good community and good relationships. And it's interesting how it integrates so perfectly with good food. When I started my restaurant, that was one of the big things that we felt was...
Oh man, there's a particular pleasure bringing people together through food, and restauranting is a pain in the butt. It is ridiculous amounts of work. It is very slim profits. But it is very satisfying bringing people together over good food. I will say that. That's the one aspect of the restaurant I miss.
Yeah, it was super fun, but it is very challenging. I think that is the thing about it, is because on the one hand, people love to share food, and their best experiences come from really good meals and good company. And on the other hand, if you screw up somebody's meal, they get really upset.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
You need to be good at what you do.
And then, and I know you're dealing with this, and I've mentioned this to you before, the nuts and bolts of handling all that food, making sure it doesn't get wasted, preparing it properly, delivering it properly. You're still immersed in that world right now.
Yes, we're not big enough yet to be able to afford much help, so we do everything ourselves. We have one person who helps us with driving, but the rest of it we do ourselves. And it's a lot. There's a lot of details there, between picking it up from the farms, storing it for a brief while, packing it in the bags and delivering it, and then cleaning up the bags afterwards. There's a lot of invisible pieces at work there.
Well, I hope you're charging me enough, because I feel bad. I mean, thank you for us and everybody. Thank you for doing this.
One of the upgrades of the new website, just gotta say, there's a tips section.
Oh, nice! You got to get in with that. That's a big thing nowadays. Everybody puts a tip on there.
So, if you want to pay more for your food,
you should call it donation. Maybe, I don't know. Just an idea. Let's see what's going on in the chat here. Oh man, it's scrolled past me. This is the first. All right. Merryman says, score. Susan says, how about a live feed on the farm showing us the magic? Live feed, oh man. Merryman says, I've seen regenerative hemp seeds. Get them sometimes. Renee says, no-till and really focusing on the soil ecosystem. Eleanor asks, what do you think about the live soil and how it connects to the soil within us? And does enhancing the soil of our material body affect the soil of our spiritual body? Ooh, deep question.
Well, I guess the answer would be yes.
There you go. All right. That's good enough for now.
I don't know. There's so many different ways you could approach that. The first thought that comes to mind is the as below, so above.
That's what I was just thinking.
That mentality.
Yeah.
You could go down like the fractal universe perspective, and all things are connected. Everything is a pattern. So if you treat the smallest thing well, the greater things become better. And the reverse is true too. So I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, as above, so below. That's totally what I was thinking as a response to that. What I've really been struck by just in this conversation is this feeling that the integration of the community and the quality of the food seem very intricately tied in an as above, so below almost way, where it's like they directly correspond.
Tell me more.
I mean, just what you were saying about, the relationship, the feeling I get when I meet the farmers, and you connected it to the community events and how people experience, good food with each other, and it creates such a powerful effect. And I've experienced that so many times. And now connecting it to what you're talking about, which is having good food coming from good farms, all in the same room and in the same process, basically.
Well, Eleanor's question was more specifically about the soil aspect as well. I don't know. To me, all things are relations. Whether it's between me and you, whether it's between me and my food, whether it's between soil biology and the plant, everything is a relation. We're all related in some fashion, and if we promote good relationships, then everyone benefits.
Yeah, couldn't agree with that more. I mean, that's one of the major points of this channel, The Way of Service, is about serving people and building our relationships in that way. I've argued many times that it's the most important thing in life is, what is your quality of your relationships? How are you treating the people around you?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's what life's all about right there.
Yeah. Memory Man says, community building in 2025 is a bit tricky, obviously. But most people just won't be interested till things get much worse.
Well, I think most people will be less aware until things get worse. There's nothing like pain to bring attention to something.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that from COVID. COVID was this incredibly awful event, by every measure, except for the amount of waking up that it created.
As bad as it was, there's been a lot of good which has come out of it. And yeah, a lot of people have woken up to the shenanigans of the world.
Yeah.
That's a technical term, by the way.
Shenanigans?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you the definition of
it. I was about to say, what is the definition? But yeah, remember, man, I lately I've taken a more optimistic view on it. I feel like it's happening. It's just happening a little slower than we want it to happen, but it is happening. That's the key. And I'm hoping that, whether it's in the next 10, 20, 30 years or in the next 300 years, whatever it is, there's going to be a tipping point.
Well, you've spoken to this before, is we're already past that tipping point. We're on the upswing. We're moving in the right direction. We just got to keep that momentum going. But I think we've already reached the tipping point towards the good.
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. So what you're talking about is the yugas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that idea is there was like the minimum, but if we measure it as far as like enlightened people, we're not there yet because
we're nowhere close.
Right. So comparing now to the golden age that's found in all these myths, which is one of the biggest pieces of evidence of the Yuga cycle, that there will be a golden age in about, according to the math, 10,000 years. So we're not at the tipping point to the golden age, but we're probably on the tipping point to, I don't know, organic food, right? Or like an awareness that the industrial, maybe if people aren't all on board with organic food, at least there's probably a tipping point on industrial food isn't good for you. There's very few people who would go out and argue and say, no, industrial food is better and this is why. Like, there's no arguments left.
Yeah, not to pick on anybody, but, Taco Bell's not health food.
Yeah.
No shocker there.
Right. Sorry, Taco Bell, but it's true.
I've given enough of my money to Taco Bell when I was younger. That's fine.
Nice. All right. Eleanor says, community. Yeah. Oh, she was correcting me. Yeah. Renee says, food produced this way has measurably increased nutrient content over conventional several times over. Yes.
Yeah. Nutrient density is a upcoming measure of quality of food. Just to be aware of its nutrient density.
Nutrient density. So Is that something that we're going to start seeing on the nutrition facts label?
I hope so.
But not yet, right?
It'd probably be a little bit.
Yeah. That's fascinating, though. And, people who know what they're doing will probably look at something. And, I mean, I guess there's macronutrients and then there's micronutrients. But really, how many calories do you have to consume to get, X nutrient is what you're talking about, right?
Yes, well, and all the minerals and all the small things. I forget the exact numbers, but I read a study, it was years back, comparing, what was it? I think it was broccoli. It's just the nutrient, like how much nutrition was in a single head of broccoli compared to what it was 20, 30 years ago. And the amount of nutrition in previous iterations of broccoli was like 3 or 4 times better. I forget the exact numbers. It was too long ago. I don't remember the numbers. But it's that concept where there's more broccoli in the same volume of broccoli. You get more nutrition from the same volume. Nutritional density.
Yeah, that's a sad fact. It's like, in order to get the same amount of nutrition that our great-grandparents had, you'd have to eat this giant plate of whatever it is, like you said, broccoli.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm sure the same principle goes to all kinds of other things.
Right.
But that just goes back to what you feed your food. Whether it's organic, whether it's natural, whatever.
Yeah.
All determines. If you feed it focusing only on nitrogen and phosphorus, then you're going to get only nitrogen and phosphorus. But the plant will grow technically.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, right? Or fortunately, I guess, it feeds a lot of people around the world.
It does.
But... All right. Memory Man says, heck, life's been so hectic. I haven't been to farmer's market this summer. I'm bad. Well, that brings us back to what we first talked about, the farmer's market. You mentioned why it kind of sucks for you as the producer. But, I feel like I don't know if it works for people consuming either. I
mean, it can. It takes a little bit more dedication on both fronts, and it takes the right market too if you want to have a diverse variety of products. But like my experience with rural farmers markets, you go there for like a novelty purchase and maybe a pity purchase for the farmers who are set up there. In Springfield, it's a little bit different because there's actually enough people who come out where it can be more economically viable. I know there's numerous farms which go to numerous farmers markets, and that's how they make their living. And so it is possible to do that. It just takes a lot of work.
So there's still a place for farmers markets.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Maybe it would be better if there was more like dedication by the customers to the farmers market, right?
Well, it takes a bunch. I mean, most people have jobs and have other things to do on Saturdays.
Right.
So it's competing with the rest of people's life.
That's true, yeah. Yeah. Well, you're solving that problem with what you're doing.
Working on it.
Yeah. Susan says, Ryan, plug your service, including your number or your website.
Littlefarm.store. All the information's on there.
That's easy to remember. Littlefarm.store.
Yep.
Nice. Eleanor says, if you want people to show up, serve food, responding to that. I personally feel more connected with people when we can say where the food came from. It feels more filling than buying a giant case of pre-made cupcakes from Costco to a party.
Yeah, it means something more for sure. With the food having more of a story than it came from a factory.
Right. Yeah, she's telling a story. Our daughter really wanted to bring cupcakes, and we bought them at Costco. And then when we brought them home, she looked at the ingredients, and there was literally plastic in the ingredients.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
That's impressive.
I know, right?
Most times they don't have plastic in the food.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, most times there is plastic in the food, microplastics, but there's not like an ingredient line for plastic.
Right.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, well, because she knows that, she's like, oh, that's plastic. Most people wouldn't know that. But that's definitely if you're not going to buy organic, at least read the ingredient label. And if you don't know what something is, you probably shouldn't eat it.
It's a good rule to live by.
Yeah. Tim says regenerative practices grow life in the soil, which in turn grows plants and animals. Soil microbes tend to provide macro and micronutrients such as nitrogen and trace minerals. Too much to understand in one brief stream. Well, maybe, Tim, you might have to be a guest on the stream at some point here. Get ready for it, buddy. Susan says, in the Bible, there were 4 guys who wouldn't eat the food they were served. They ate more basic food, and after a week, they looked and felt much healthier. Interesting. I don't remember that story.
Wasn't that Daniel?
Was it?
I think it was Daniel. No, I don't know. It's been too long. I'm not as familiar with the Bible as I once was.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember that story, but it sounds like the story is basically teaching watch what you eat, right?
Well, and if I recall right, it was they were being served all kinds of luxuries and wines and all the best things.
Oh, interesting.
And it was a expression of just, we just want the simple stuff. We want to have the basics. We want to not be all decadent and I don't know, extreme like that.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing about enjoying your food. It's like, because food is so not nutrient dense and almost doesn't taste good without all these different sauces and things on it, and salt and MSG or whatever, people feel like they need to overindulge to have had a good experience. But when you eat really good food, I feel like this is almost like a European thing too. Like here in America, the food is not as well protected as in Europe. But there's this idea that you can eat less and still have a great experience.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I haven't experienced that myself, but I believe that to be true.
Eleanor says, relations, way of service is all about relationships. Yes, exactly. Susan says, then the others who ate the food. Right, from the story. Eleanor says, I like what Ryan said about treating the smallest thing well. In this age of the internet, it seems like to be appreciated, you have to do something grand and impressive. Treating the smallest things well makes living a simple life of serving the soil and your relationships a noble and inspiring one, whether it's big and viral or not.
Yeah.
Are you doing this for fame and fortune, Ryan?
If I am, I'm doing it wrong. That's for sure. On both counts.
Yeah.
No. What am I doing it for? I see the need, and because of my over mental way of looking at the world, I see a potential solution, and so it's like, let's see if this works. Might as well.
Might as well just dedicate your life to this problem.
At least the last decade, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely better than not doing anything.
Yeah, I couldn't think of any better way to impact the world. And this has, I don't know, resonating effects into the future. Getting any motion towards decentralized food and increase in community, any amount of effort I can put in that direction will pay back to everybody, including myself, going far into the future.
Tell me more. What do you mean, further into the future?
Well, all of our actions ripple into the future and have effects. If there is a system in place which enabled small producers to be able to connect with their region, they would be more effective in what they do, and the region would be stronger economically, and the people would be better off health-wise and community-wise. That's at least 4 wins right there. And continue pushing that into the future, and it just expands those 4 wins in all directions.
Nice. I like that vision. Yeah, I mean, and that's why even if we only have 9 viewers, it will ripple out into the world, And every week that I do this, hopefully there's more viewers, and that's how I see it growing. But then each of those people might share these ideas with others, and you like and subscribe, and also share this video with other people, get the word out there, right?
Mm-hmm. That's how things grow.
Exactly. Memory Man says, no way, things got to get way worse before better. No, he disagrees with me. Yuga ends in total destruction, then reet for 10k years probably. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of different evidence in the past, and I don't think it's all necessarily about catastrophes leading to a better world. I think that it's like that Buckminster Fuller quote that you mentioned to me yesterday. Pull that up.
Well, I think it also has to do with where you put your attention. There is catastrophe all around us all the time, and there's also beauty around us all the time. I prefer to build towards beauty, but I also recognize that there's catastrophe all the way around us. But I'm moving in the other direction.
Yeah, this is something I feel passionate about because, I used to feel that way, and it was like, why create a YouTube channel and try to change people's minds? And I realized that, I think God has created the universe such that you have the choice to experience what you focus on. Even if the world is going to hell in a handbasket, if you have a good connection to God, if you have good relationships, if you do your best to be a good person, you're going to have a positive and expansive and joyful experience of life. And so focusing on what's bad is often, it almost, this is why they say it gives energy to the bad things, because and really the main mechanism of that is that it holds your own energy back from being able to participate in the way that you should be participating.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, you could go macro, you could go micro local, but there are examples of this everywhere where there's devastation in families nearby, economically depressed. The communities are in shambles. I mean, you could frame what we exist in around here, just in southern Missouri, like that for sure. But there's also opportunity there, and rather than wallow, I'd rather push energy towards the positivity and improve my environment.
Definitely agree with you there, Ryan.
So it's a choice. I recognize the devastation, though.
Right. Yeah, and here's that quote from Buckminster Fuller. You never change things by fighting the existing reality.
No, I think you started that wrong.
Oh.
Wait, maybe you did.
No, yeah, it's that you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was a quote from him back when I was really young, and that inspired me there.
Do you remember when you heard it?
Oh, I don't remember. It was somewhere like 12 or 14 years old when I first came across Buckminster.
Wow.
But he's got a pretty inspirational life too.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I've definitely heard the name, but I don't know much about him.
Like a mathematician and architect and engineer.
Nice.
Built some beautiful things.
Nice. I'll have to check him out. Susan says, took the words out of my mouth, Ryan. Re Taco Bell. Memory Man says, all this trauma, I'm ready for a hood long sleep. I guess a good long sleep. Are you talking about tonight or at the end of your life, sir? I'm not sure. in the perspective of what we're talking about here. Yeah, I know that feeling. Maybe you need a vacation. Take a vacation and then start the LFA Arkansas branch. Let's see. This is the first time I've ever lost my place in the chat because there's so many chats. Okay, Timothy says, funny people say they can't afford healthy food. Pound for pound, this is a grave error. How much are Doritos per pound or any processed food? Trace minerals create nutrient density along with macronutrients. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not necessarily cheaper to, buy cheap food, right? Especially when you bring in the health effects and the long-term problems, medical costs and things like that.
Yeah, it's hard to exactly see what the cost is of cheap food. It's hard to measure that. And likewise, it's hard to measure it of good food too, because at least in regards to like medical, sure you eat healthily, but how much medical expense did you avoid? It's impossible to measure. Right. But you can just measure in your current state of well-being and connectedness with your community. So there's positive measurements there. It's hard to put a dollar value to that.
Yeah, do we want to? I mean, at a certain point, the dollar value...
It's diminishing all the time.
Right. Well, yeah, that too. But like literally trying to use money as a framework for how valuable something is, it reaches its limit pretty quickly, I think.
Yep, for sure. Some things are priceless, some things are not. And you can buy... money is an interesting subject, which I have spent countless hours listening to. It's one of the side effects of operating this business is I spend so many hours in the car driving around from farms and delivering things, about 500 miles a week. And there's a lot of audio which I can listen to. And I listen to a lot of people speaking on economics and, that kind of stuff. So it's a complex subject when you talk about the value of money and things value in reference to money. It's very complex. Very subjective too.
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I've thought about, like how much would somebody have to pay me for me to be okay with them chemtrailing me, for example? And it would probably be, $1,000 a day or, but even then it's probably too much. But you use that to assess the damages that somebody's doing when they don't pay you, right? It's like, well, they can't afford to do that. If they really, this is the idea of, there's so many of these companies are externalizing their costs, which is what processed food is kind of does, right?
Yeah. There's all kinds of costs which they don't pay for, pollution-wise, just waste, effort, and all that kind of stuff. There's all kinds of unintended consequences of the way that the money system has incentivized corporations to be set up. Lots of bad incentives there. A lot of subsidies, making cheap food cheaper, or empty food cheaper, which messes with everybody's access to food, because if you can buy what looks like the similar product for half the price, you're going to do that. Everyone does. But it's all fake, which is a lot of what a lot of money is. It's the fake money. We have a lot of fake money floating around right now.
That is very true. Well, so I know you're passionate about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see it fixing the money system? And do you see Bitcoin as helping to fix the food system?
Well, in a way, they're connected. In multiple ways, probably they're connected. The concept of Bitcoin fixing the money system kind of goes back to what the theories were with like the gold standard, where there is a valuable thing which everything else is measured by. Since we left the gold standard, the dollar has just been floating, and it has been whatever the money printers say it is. What was that in 2020? Was it? A fifth of all dollars ever created was created in that year.
I posted that. I posted that on Facebook. Yeah, I think it was more than that.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact numbers.
It's some ridiculous number. Yeah. That's absurd. Over like a 200-year period, this much dollars was created, and then in like 2020, I think it was maybe half of it, or I think it was more than half, but I can't remember exactly. Whatever the number was, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, if you want to get some perspective on some things, look at some charts of the purchasing value of the dollar over the years. And it shows how broken that system is. It works for the people who control it and issue it and manage it, but it doesn't work for anybody else. But the way it connects with food, the big corporations are supported by this. They have enough money where, money stops meaning the same thing at a certain scale. And the small people can't. The small farmers, they can't compete. You can't compete with Walmart. There's nothing a small farmer could do to affect Walmart in any significant way. But with a actual stable dollar, or a stable currency measure, the money printing issue goes away, and the money printing issue is connected to so many different things. The reason why the Bitcoiners say fix, or what was it? Dang it, now I just lost.
Fix the money, fix the world.
Fix the money, fix the world. I think there's truth to that. And it's a long process which it's going to take, but I'm optimistic that Bitcoin's going to bring some sanity, or at least an increasing measure of sanity, to the financial system. The more I look into how money works in the system which we have right now, the more I'm just amazed that it hasn't all gone up in smoke. And you could argue it has.
Well, historically, that's what happens to fiat currency. And it's interesting how, we were talking about tipping points earlier. I feel like the concept of fiat, people now use that word. And the word fiat currency, it literally means by decree.
Because I said so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the historic results of every fiat currency has always been to zero. They always end up going to zero.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whether you talk about diluting the money supply is really the issuing of new money, or they did it in different ways in different time periods, but printing money, it benefits very few people and harms everybody else.
Yeah, if you want to talk about one of the bad aspects of COVID, that was probably one of the worst aspects of it, was this incredible money printing. And everybody experienced, they tell us it was a 10% inflation or something. It's like, oh no, 10% is, it was 100%. In my experience, on average, most things doubled in price, maybe less, maybe like 70%, but it was a dramatic inflation. And
it wasn't equal across the board either, because food prices haven't increased as much as other things. So it's kind of localized, but I couldn't really speak to any of the details of why certain segments of the economy were inflated more than others. But cars are a great example. When was that? 2009, I think I bought my first house, and I bought it for 160, and the same house would be, I don't know, 700 today. I don't know what it would be in Washington, but that wasn't that long ago. Real estate has inflated like crazy.
Yeah, you're right. It does vary, and it almost feels like, they're able to hide it that way because, like you said, now for most people, being a homeowner is almost out of reach, which is another tragedy of this money printing. Most people don't understand that it all goes back to this money printing thing. I like you, have been studying this for a long time, and I've been investing in Bitcoin, and I was happy to see gold and silver finally breaking out.
Nice.
But for a lot of us, I don't know of you in the audience who have invested in Bitcoin or gold and silver, but this is why they go up. They don't really go up. The dollar goes down, and that's why the value of these things goes up in dollar values, right?
Yep. Looks great.
What do you mean?
Well, the dollar valuation going up looks great.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really, it goes back to the catastrophe that the dollar's going down, and there's going to be ramifications of that going into the future too.
Yeah, you're right. One thing I know from being an investor is this is another reason that the stock market goes up, is because the printed dollars basically first go to the stock market. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but because they come through debt, and all these companies basically operate through debt. And then what these companies do is they borrow money and then they use that money to buy their stock back. They buy their own stock back with the printed money that they get. So this is how the stock market is constantly propelled forward and upward, and that's where basically these dollars arrive after the first few people get to have them, the printed dollars. And then they go into the stock market, and then they filter out into the economy.
Yep. Yeah, Keynesian economics and crony capitalism is a wonderful combination, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. It's great. We couldn't have a better system, could we?
But speaking of spirituality...
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I do feel like, it's amazing that it hasn't collapsed, right? That's something that I've been facing. A lot of the people who moved out here, I talk about this in my videos, moved out here because we thought it was all coming to an end, but it hasn't. And I don't know that it's going to. Like, I don't know that it's going to have some big event that wakes everybody up or anything like that.
Well, there's been a series of events, though. There's been a series of catastrophes. One thing I like to conceptually compare this with, when the barbarians came and sacked Rome, if you were 30 miles outside the city, you were unaffected. I mean, there were ramifications for sure, but it wasn't like the huge, dramatic army massacring everybody thing that it's like a popular mentality of it. The barbarians coming in to sack Rome, unless you were there, it affected you much less. And I think there's plenty of catastrophes going on in the world right now, which can be kind of comparable like that. So, I don't know, the world is ending, but it's also beginning.
Yeah. I saw a quote. Have you ever watched Game of Thrones?
Mm-hmm.
There's a quote by one of the characters at some point, and they're like, I don't know, they're just sitting somewhere looking at a nature scene, and they're like, no matter how much bad stuff is happening in most places in the world, no shit is happening at all. It's like, it's boring as shit.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's true, but also I think in a good way, like I was saying earlier, I think we all have the freedom to live our lives the way that we're supposed to, or the way that we want to. And I think that's by God's design, in my opinion.
Yeah, whether you look at it from more like a karma perspective, because we do have our starting positions, and we do have our starting relations, and so it's not unbounded what we live the way we want to live, but our choices from our present position are ours as well, and so we can move in the direction we want to go. I mean, Gandhi said it'd be the change you want to see in the world. That's true.
Yeah, in my experience, it's really easy to get down when you look at other people's lives and you look at like the state of society. And those things definitely have major effects on our lives. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them are things we can't control, and we don't really need to let them bother us, To
some degree. I mean, the happenings of the world definitely bother me. But I accept things, and I keep my eye and my attention in the direction I choose. So it's a choice how I respond to the things of the world. And I take responsibility for that.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I think you and I both share this kind of, it's almost like a vice. It's a sick fascination with, how bad things are out there. It's, sometimes it's almost entertainment to read how bad the news is, or the latest drama, and people feel outraged or upset. But I think there's also a twinge of like, oh yeah, another thing to occupy my time. It's almost like a dopamine hit,
Well, it definitely has that effect for sure. Yeah, and a lot of the social media stuff has, it's well designed to dopamagenic? Dopaminergic? What's that word?
I think it's dopaminergic.
Dopaminergic.
Or I might have added a syllable in there, but
whatever that is.
Yeah.
It affects that system in the brain a lot, and it's hard to overcome. I mean, that's one of the next health crises coming up right now. Some people would call it ADD or whatever, or ADHD, I mean. But just the attention and the dopamine addictions, that's a big issue coming up, for sure.
That's a fascinating way to put it. I hadn't thought of it as a health crisis, but you're right. That is what it is, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mental health.
Yeah, mental health and just health in general. I mean, people are unable to, function, and then they're unable to function socially, and then they're lonely, and we know that loneliness is more dangerous than smoking a pack of cigarettes every day.
Yep, and cures or at least treatments for these types of things is community involvement, connection, healthy foods, all the things which have absorbed my life into it. So it's the direction I push, and so I get the benefit of that for sure, having access to all these things.
Yeah, because you get to see all these people every week, even though you're spending 500 miles on the road every week, right?
Yeah, there's a price to pay, but there's definitely some payouts.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate that you're doing all that for everyone. All right, we're way behind on the chat. Let's see if we can pick up some good ideas here. Memory Man says, "Durr, I can't afford to get good," says the sick, low energy person. Eleanor says, "Aren't there open fresh markets in Europe? How do they make farmers markets work?"
I think it's a whole other system. I haven't been to Europe, but I have seen like documentaries and stuff, and it's a whole different culture over there around food, and Asia as well, at least outside of the cities. But even in the cities, I think that they have huge markets. They don't have supermarkets like we have here in the same way.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about it. I just know that it seems like their food is way better in Europe. And I know that like the same product in Europe has different ingredients in it than the product in the United States, because in Europe those ingredients are illegal.
Yeah, there is definitely a place for regulation. There's a place for less regulation too, but as far as food goes, we should know what is in the food. And as far as like a societal civilization scale system, there needs to be some standards for sure.
Yeah, I mean, regulation, like anything else, has its positives and negatives, right? And when coupled with a bad money system and like corruption, regulation results in like gatekeeping through something like the organic label system, right? But if the people are involved and it's there because people want their food to be good, that's really the question, is like how many people care about the quality of their food. Here in the United States, it seems like for a long time, people haven't cared about the quality of their food, and that has led to basically the state of things today.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons, I think, why the food system is the way it is. And at least in higher education, there's not, unless you go into it specifically, there's not an emphasis on nutrition. And you probably would know better than I, but any of the medical professions, they have so little, like so few courses on nutrition. It's all about pharmacy and any of like the medical professions, at least from the doctors which I've talked to. But
yeah, well, the medical system's a whole nother tragic situation where, even if they do know a lot about nutrition, maybe they know about it from their own study, they very rarely share that information with their customers or their patients.
Incentives, financial incentives,
right,
goes a long ways, and that goes right back to the money system and money printing and research grants and pharmacy companies.
Yeah. And so much of the money that sloshes through the medical system is directly from the government. Yeah, that's all right. We'll fix this problem too, right, Ryan?
Just get healthy people, healthy communities. All of that will diminish over time.
Yeah, as opposed to changing the medical system, we're gonna fix it from the other end, which is just by maintaining health. I feel like that's what I'm trying to do on this channel. I feel like if you follow the way of service, you're gonna have a better experience in life. You're gonna be positively oriented. If you don't worry about all the negative things and you just focus on what you can do to help, you're going to be healthier. You're going to be more excited and energized. You're not going to need this messed up medical system.
Having an emergency system, though, is wonderful, because the modern, one thing, just like the food system, the modern medicine system has some phenomenal utility. Being able to keep people alive the way they do is incredible. Punctured lungs, broken everything, people can be put back together with a modern medical system, which is phenomenal. It is great with emergency. It's less good at maintenance and health.
Yeah, I've always said that the Western medicine system is great with emergency situations, acute situations, but it's really bad with chronic health problems. And like you said, it doesn't even think about, it focuses on the problems. It doesn't even really help people to live healthily, right?
Well, going back to the money, what's the incentive of curing a patient? What is the incentive there? There's financial incentive to keep people sick enough to keep selling them products.
Yeah, it's definitely a tragic
and
situation.
There's whole food science divisions and designing addictive foods. And
same thing with the social media, right?
Yeah, there's definitely patterns.
Right. Yeah, I mean, how many of these big industries are really just selling addictions?
A lot.
Yeah.
But admittedly, I'm addicted to food. But I'm addicted to good food.
Well, we all have that addiction because we're alive. But yeah.
I'll just choose my addictions a little bit more carefully.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to the chat here. Memory Man says, I'll use this stream as a reminder to get to the farmer's market this week. Sounds good, sir.
Do it. Support local farms. They can use the support, that's for sure.
Eleanor says, we made beautiful homemade cupcakes and it was like a legit gift to bring them.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, certainly a lot better than buying them at Costco. I don't know if our 5-year-old daughter understood the difference there, but she will someday. Alexander says, commercially grown veggies sit in the warehouse for a long time before sitting on the truck and traveling 1,000 miles to sit in the store and then sit in your fridge. Getting local food is a great service.
Yeah, it's an amazing engineering feat in the logistics chain, which is the modern food system. Totally mind-blowing in how complex it is. But yeah, why have needless complexity? Just buy from local farms as much as you can. Much simpler, much healthier.
Well, it seems like that is complicated for a lot of people because they want to just go to one place and just buy it there.
Well, people have been conditioned for sure.
Yeah.
And it is convenient. You go to one of the big box stores and you can get all your food and you can get all your everything else too.
Right.
And everyone has a very rushed life. If you wanted to go to even five different farms in the area, how many miles is that if everyone wanted to go to farm to farm to farm to pick up the stuff which they want each week? That's not efficient. There needs to be someone consolidating that.
Someone.
Someone.
If only someone would do that.
If only someone could connect all these little farms into a single store.
So, yeah, I don't know. All right, Renee says, Ryan and I source our groceries through our network, so we eat what we preach, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend less now than I did when we used to shop at the stores. More conscious purchases and eating.
Yep. We also don't buy all the center aisle stuff as much either, all the packaged goods, because high processed foods are some of the least healthy. And we don't have many of those because, it takes manufacturing to make processed foods. So we don't have as much access to those types of things, and we don't spend our money on that. So what do you know?
Nice. Yeah, you're really living it, which is awesome.
Kind of have it's not exactly a competition, but we make note often when we make meals how many of the ingredients we got locally, and it's almost always the majority, like 5 out of 6 ingredients or however. And we see how much we can get locally.
Nice. So do you feel the difference since you've been doing that? I mean, you've probably been eating this way for a while.
So yeah. I know I don't feel well when I eat cheap food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can feel a noticeable drag in my energy when I have to travel or something and I'm just eating out or whatever. I feel more sluggish from that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel the same way. Hannah says, it's in the book of Daniel, but it was different guys. Okay. Susan says, Eleanor taught me the value of burdock. Interesting. Eleanor says, I think 9 viewers is awesome. Do you know burdock? I'm not sure what she's referring to.
Yeah, it's a native species which grows around here. The root is edible and medicinal, wonderful for livers and I forget what all else, but it's like a superfood. In many places, like in Asia, I think more specifically, they have like cultivated varieties, like equivalent to like potatoes or something. But the ones around here are medicinal.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother section of life is the herbal medicine, and the Western medicine has no interest, no participation in that.
And that's another resource which is abundant around here, but that takes so much more education too. Because, I mean, there's burdock growing everywhere around my farm. But effectively turning that into a product to bring to people, that's an uphill battle. Both on education and just the labor requirements for such small harvests, because not very many people are going to buy that.
Right.
Plus, I'm not a doctor and I can't give medical advice.
Right, exactly. It's another regulatory barrier, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing that, now that I think about it just in this moment, there's almost no herbal medicine industry in the West. Basically, it's Chinese medicine is what I can think of. But most
I
people
think it's
aren't.
broader than that, but that's definitely, I think, the dominant strain, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like people should be far more familiar with the medicine that's around them,
Yeah, and it's everywhere. There's so many edible things around. My main agricultural interests is permaculture and orcharding and that kind of thing. And I don't know, I like being able to identify and know what a lot of different plants do. So it's kind of like a hobby of mine.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of books about it and I've dabbled in it, but it's kind of overwhelming.
It's a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And that's another rabbit hole which you can go down in so many different directions.
I feel like it's another thing where I really wish there were, and I'm sure there are, I need to reach out, but like people who really know and then who can help you, like somebody who you feel comfortable calling up and then be like, yeah, go.
Well, we have
down
3 or
into,
4 practitioners within the association. I mean,
yeah.
So
Nice.
if you're interested in getting connected with natural health and nutritionalists and all that kind of stuff, look no further than your own little community here.
Yeah. Do you highlight that on your website?
To some degree, it's not central to what our function is, but we do network, and as the community networks together, those connections are naturally made.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and now we have 10, so that's pretty sweet. Memory Man says, indeed, focus is key. Whenever's going to happen, we must do our best. Whatever happens. Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, the world could end tomorrow. I don't know. I'm not telling you it's not going to, But I think even if it ends, we'll be okay. God will protect us, and if we help each other through it, we'll get through it. That's how I feel about it. Renee says, that's a wonderful thought, Daniel. We all get to choose how we move through the world and make meaning. Exactly, and that's what I talk about on this channel. And I think that the best way to do it is through the way of service, figuring out how can you serve the world in the most unique way that the gift that you have to give the world, which is what you're doing, Ryan, in my opinion.
Well, I'm definitely not selling it, but I'm gifting it a lot.
What do you mean by that?
Well, like you said earlier, I'm not doing this to get rich.
Yeah.
It's not an effective method for that, though I will accept it if that comes.
Yeah, well, I hope and I expect that you're in the early stages.
No. That's for sure. It's in the very early stages.
Yeah. Memory Man, what you resist persists. Memory Man says, at the end of the yuga, I meant then good long rest. Yeah, well, you'll have to check out the yuga book and my yuga presentation about it. I think that at the end of the yuga, it's going to be so awesome, you're not going to want to sleep through it. So, but I think this is a great time to be alive as well. I wouldn't want to sleep through this either. So.
I can't think of a time in history I would rather live in.
Yeah. Memory Man says, most important, pray over food, bless it, and feel as good about it as possible. Yeah. I remember a story about, I think it was a Native American, modern Native American, talking about how they lived in poverty, but because they blessed their food, even though they were eating like low quality food, they were still very healthy. And I think that that's definitely true. Again, God gives you a mechanism, even if you're living in a world with polluted food. If you bless your food, if you have this positive mentality, you can overcome all these different toxins and lack of nutrients that a lot of people face.
It's amazing how resilient humans are. And I've not met a more resilient people than the natives. I have more experience in Alaska natives and the tribes up there, but I have some experience down in the States as well. And there's not a hardier, more resilient people anywhere in the world. Truly inspirational what they've been through.
Yeah. Can't even imagine. Memory Man says, I'm way more interested in living well than saving money. Yeah.
Yep. Well, because, with the fiat system, there's no point in saving money. If you hold on to it, you're losing it. That's part of the problem.
Yeah, and also, you can't take it with you, right?
Nope.
And it doesn't really affect your life. And, I've always realized this about money. It's like, in your life, if you never didn't have enough money to buy food or shelter, you always had enough, and it didn't really change anything. Like, maybe you had something nice here or there, but ultimately money has no real effect on your life unless you totally run out of it. And even in that situation, it seems like God provides anyways. So it's like, money's almost this illusion anyways.
Yeah. I won't discount the effect it has, because money does have some real effects.
Right.
But yeah, God provides regardless.
Yeah. Eleanor says, before the stream ends, I want to hear about one of the teasers you listed. Done with manifestation.
Well, how could we segue over in that direction?
Well, so let's see. I do have a question about it. Let me just find the question for you, and we'll see. So you mentioned being tired of manifestation talk because people use it for spiritual bypassing. What did you mean by that?
Well, first, why don't you define what you mean by spiritual bypassing?
Oh, okay. I knew you were going to say that, Ryan. You're supposed to yes and me. All right. Well, spiritual bypassing is basically when people use the idea of manifesting or having higher vibrations to avoid dealing with something negative in their life, or dealing with a problem, or rising to meet the challenge of their life. And they basically say oh, I'm okay, this doesn't matter, instead of really dealing with the emotions and the difficulty that often comes through painful relationships or whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, I would say people in those situations are manifesting. They're manifesting exactly what it is that they're wanting, and they're stuck there, and they're not manifesting greater benefit because it takes effort. I don't know. There's a lot of stereotypes you could apply this to, but I've met many people in my journey through life which, whether explicitly or just through their mannerisms, are manifesting millions of dollars. They're going to be wealthy. They're going to be famous. They're going to be all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't happen because they're just trying to just manifest it, just poof into existence. And that's not how manifestation works in my experience. It happens divinely for sure, and doors open at a amazing regularity. But you need to be engaged in the directed effort of living a growth-filled life, something along those lines. And so I get irritated and have less patience for people who are determined to stay stuck in the just manifestation place where something's going to happen, things are going to turn around, and like you were saying, it comes to a point where they just are happy, they become happy sitting in their I'm okayness, and I have less patience on that.
Yeah, and when we talked about this, it was also about people missing their opportunity in their life to take up a challenge to do something meaningful in the world. That's why I talk about that on this channel, the way of service. It's like, instead of you just being okay, like, you take that being okayness and bring it out into the world, serve the world in some way. Once you orient yourself towards serving the world, now you're actually taking advantage of the opportunity that is your life. But if you just want things to just come to you through manifestation, you're missing the whole point, and it won't happen for you, because that's not how the universe is designed to work. Like you said, it's designed to bring you opportunities, and that's where the manifestation shows up. It's like, wow, I have another opportunity. I have another sign from the universe that I can do this thing. But instead, you miss it because you're just excited about the sign. You don't take the step that's actually uncomfortable for you, that'll take you out of your comfort zone, that'll take you into, a challenge in your life where you're going to have to learn things and apply your knowledge and apply your skill and apply your will and your discipline and all these things. So a lot of people, I think, skip that part and they just stay in the I'm good, I don't have to do anything mode. Mm-hmm. Is that how you felt about it?
Yeah, the metaphor kind of comes to mind. I've never known a thorough growth experience to be comfortable. I think uncomfortableness is kind of a key ingredient in real growth. And the comparison I would use it for a small thing, a plant which is grown in a totally perfect environment with no stresses will grow up to be weaker than one which is grown in a somewhat stressful environment. I mean, there's an optimal place there. You don't want to overstress things because they die. But no stress makes for less growth.
That's fascinating, because that's one of my favorite gardening methods, is the stun method.
That is the way I practice.
Yeah. I mean, by necessity, right?
Yep.
For those of you who are not familiar with the stun method, the sudden, total, utter neglect method of gardening. And then the idea in this is a legitimate gardening method, and the guy who teaches it says, then you take the plants that survived the stun method, and those are your plants that are adapted to surviving without any real help and in the environment that you grew them in. And so then generation after generation, you hone in on, the plants that are strongest for what you want.
Mm-hmm. And personally, my own ambitions agriculturally, I want plants which need as little input from me as possible. That's why I like permaculture and orcharding. Orcharding is a challenge because of just our environment, and the nature of fruit makes for very ugly fruit, which is not sellable. Delicious, but ugly because of just how much biology is around. And that's one reason why fruit in general in the commercial system are some of the most pesticide-laden foods there is.
That's interesting. Another thing that hopefully will change when people are more knowledgeable about what real food is like. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. No, it's all growth and learning.
All right. Let's see how much more chat. I think we can catch up here. Do you have any time constraints? Do you have to get back by any time?
No, I'm good.
Okay. As long as I don't hear children screaming, I feel like I'm in good shape. But I don't know if we'll be able to go too late. We'll definitely go for at least another 20 minutes, I think, and that'll bring us to 9 o'clock. Let's see here. Susan says, yes, Memory Man, blessing your food through God, I feel makes the food more healthy and from God. Yep. Memory Man says, heart BTC.
Love that Bitcoin.
No doubt about that. Timothy says, bless the soil and the crops and it will go well for you. There is interesting research on positive words spoken towards objects.
Yeah, there's been studies done on, the water, freezing water with different intentions changes the crystalline structure of it. Have you ever seen any of those?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have the book. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, that's like pretty measurable right there.
Right. Well, there's a lot of that. And I talk about that on this channel. Just the sheer number of scientific studies that prove that consciousness has a major effect on the world.
Yeah, I think that would be something that would be great for society to learn or appreciate more of, is just how impactful their own thoughts are.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's, going back into the Yuga theory, like that's what we're learning now. We're learning as a species that we don't just have an effect in the physical world, we also have an effect in the mental world, in the realm of thought.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't read Autobiography of a Yogi, right?
No, I haven't.
Well, in that book, he talks about, he met with this great plant researcher. I forget the guy's name, but he did all sorts of fascinating experiments. One such experiment that he explains, and I haven't verified it, but I trust Yogananda in the book. He said that he basically told a plant, I forget if it was a type of rose or a type of cactus, but he was like, don't worry, I'll protect you. And over a few generations, it successively lost its thorns. Just as an incredible example.
Yeah, that's a cool thought. Sounds like someone should do some research on that.
Well, yeah, I think this one guy did the research, but it's like until it's actually taken up.
Unearth that research and spread that knowledge.
Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I'll make a presentation. Is that what you're saying? Okay, nice. I like that. Matthew A says, doesn't Bitcoin lead to more control of currency? Oh.
Well, that's subjective, or I mean, that's let's say how to put it. Can you get more control of currency than we currently have? I mean, how can you get more control? It's basically controlled entirely as it is. There are all kinds of gatekeepers. There's all kinds of manipulations. I mean, it's basically controlled as it is. And one thing which the system would lose is the ability to print. And even if that's the only improvement, that's a major improvement. I suspect, though, that it will bring a much wider freedom to a lot of people adopting Bitcoin more thoroughly. But I'm sure there will be gatekeepers there, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I might just be guessing here, but I'm pretty sure that what Matthew's talking about is kind of the question of the digital nature of Bitcoin. I think that's why a lot of people are kind of afraid of it, is they think that it's a way to get everybody onto the grid, get them onto the internet network and, hardwired, whereas like cash is less traceable than Bitcoin in a lot of ways.
Well, maybe. I mean, there's some pretty serious science in cash, too. It's very traceable. I can't speak thoroughly knowledgeably on that, but there's plenty of conspiracy theories on that one. But it's not real. I mean, dollars are not real. Like cash, you're trading paper. There's no greater intrinsic value there than some numbers you have in your head. I don't know. I don't see any. It's
a strong argument that it's like how much worse can it get? I mean, and digital dollars is pretty much real too, so it's all digitalized anyways.
The added thing there would be the programmable money, where a system could theoretically program money to be only able to be done in certain ways, and you have to spend it in this way, and it is greater control there potential. But Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin is open to anybody who knows how to use it, and I'm sure a lot of the apps are going to, like for average folks to interact with Bitcoin, there's going to be gatekeepers there, but fundamentally it's uncontrollable, from my understanding of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be controlled, but it not totally, and it would take a very concerted effort to control the network, for example.
But as soon as you do control it, though, that network is destroyed.
Right.
Because as soon as you control it, it loses, at least from my perspective, most of its value.
Right. The incentive is for them not to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Is to maintain its properties that it has. And Matthew, if you're not familiar with the properties of Bitcoin, you should definitely check them out, because it is nearly impossible for someone to just take control of Bitcoin. Like for it to be some sort of Trojan horse, because it's been open source since its creation, and it's pretty simple. but it's also backed up by basically the strength of all this computing power that's gone into it. That's the value of Bitcoin, is all this, it's called Bitcoin mining, but all of that mining has given Bitcoin its value because it's been encrypted. That's, it's cryptocurrency. It's encrypted through this extensive mining process of, I think at this point, millions of computers, right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact hash rate of it, but it's just astounding. It is the largest synchronous computer system anywhere. It is the most powerful computer anyone's ever built by lots of magnitudes as a whole, but it's not controlled by any one person. It's spread out through all kinds of different people who are controlling little sections of it and keeping everybody else honest. So, I mean, it's a pretty genius system. Not having centralizable control. I think mining, mining corporations, probably would be the closest thing to the Achilles heel. I could see that having some issues over time consolidating. But I can't speak knowledgeably enough on that subject to have much of an opinion there. Compared to fiat currency, it's magnitudes better in every way, shape, and form. Right.
Yeah, as somebody who believes in gold, at least as far as its historic value, Bitcoin is better than gold in a lot of ways. So if you believe in gold, you should look into Bitcoin because it has a lot of the same properties, but it has more properties that gold doesn't have.
Yep. Both are awesome, but
yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket either,
That's the thing, is it's not going to be an absolute either.
Right.
I don't think fiat currencies are going away.
Not financial advice.
Definitely not financial advice. I'm the wrong person to ask for that. But yeah, fiat currencies are not going away. It's just going to be a greater ecosystem, more currencies being used. And it being measured by something more absolute, which you can't just print. And that's the biggest thing on Bitcoin, is you can't make more of them.
Yeah. Check out Michael Saylor's work. He's a little crazy, but he will explain it very well, I think.
Kind of genius crazy.
Yeah, genius crazy.
Kind of crazy genius.
Hannah says, interesting, I've been pretty resistant to my husband's interest in Bitcoin. That's funny.
Well, if you think computers are going to be around, if you think that solar flare isn't going to destroy everybody at the same time, it's a safe bet, I'd say. Not financial advice, to study Bitcoin and see if it's right for you.
Yeah, exactly. Timothy says, words are vibration and frequency, which have an impact on matter. Exactly. Memory Man says, if only people would have adopted BTC, instead BlackRock is buying it all up. ETFs and giant mining firms, that's what you just said, are an abomination. Big mining projects are a nightmare. Yeah, and again, it's like, don't worry about putting everything into one basket. I think Bitcoin is great, and I don't see how it's going to be unseated as the big one, but the technology has been proven. So if Bitcoin somehow gets corrupted, somebody else can pick up the torch,
Maybe. I mean, there's some arguments for, the immaculate conception of it. I'm not sure someone would be able to purposefully build it again, just because of the way it grew for so many years, kind of underground, before it was adopted by any number of people. A lot of I think a lot of its value comes from that aspect of it. I'm not sure you could replicate that.
I mean, like I said, I don't know how it's going to happen, but on the other hand, it has happened. I mean, there's Ethereum, which is very different, but then there's like Litecoin, which is very similar. There's Dogecoin, which I think is pretty much the same thing. Like, there's all these networks that are very similarly constructed to Bitcoin, and they don't have the same value because they don't have the extensive backing and use, but the technology is the same, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, they also have like different mining mechanisms, and the engine which runs it is very different, from my understanding, anyways. Mm-hmm. But I started going down the general altcoin rabbit hole and was like, yeah, no, I don't have enough loose money to just throw away over this way. So I'll just buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah. Either way, I think ultimately, though, I don't want to have to figure it out, but I'm excited about the technology. I'm excited about the direction of things, and I think that whatever happens, it seems like it's headed in a positive direction for humanity.
I do believe in the innate goodness of nerds and their ability to nerd out on all kinds of stuff, and I'm very grateful for them.
Yeah, it's another beautiful thing of freedom and the internet and information age.
Mm-hmm. Well, and just the whole open source mentality, because I mean, there's a huge subculture in programming in general, the open source, where people will develop things to share with others for the benefit of others, and in turn receive the benefit from others. I mean, open source is an incredible thing, and that the fact that Bitcoin is open source and there's so many people with their eyes on it, I don't know, I'm pretty confident in its integrity.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on a previous stream or a video, the gift economy. And like you said, open source, just people are so excited about ideas that they just share them. And I think that that's hopefully the way that our society can go, and kind of like shed this idea of needing to have a monetary exchange at every exchange of value. And I think that, if we adopt the way of service and we trust God and the universe, that things will work out. We can let go of the, what's in it for me energy that comes with, always getting paid, I guess, But we got to pay you more for sure.
I accept it.
Yeah. For sure. Susan says, let's go, Brandon. Memory Man says, let's go, Brandon. How that's an ancient battle cry.
It's funny how ancient is redefined now as just a couple years ago.
Right? Exactly. Memory Man says, JoJo was a parasite, but they all are. Yeah, I mean, try to avoid talking about politics at this point because I spent so long talking about it before I started this channel. Memory Man says, buy BTC or go broke. Pretty simple. No one event, yes, a series, right? Memory Man says, imagine the bedlam in the streets if people couldn't get their brain drugs.
It's a catastrophe in the waiting. What was that book? I think they made a movie about it too. 1 Second After. Did you ever read that book? It's basically...
What was it called?
1 Second After.
I've heard of it.
The premise is a EMP blast knocks out power grid and the survival story type of thing. And one of the key features of that is just how prevalent pharmaceuticals are in society. It's a scary bomb waiting to go off is the pharmacy. Like if you cut off people from pharmaceutical support suddenly, that's a catastrophe waiting to happen.
Yeah, I know I've seen some of those statistics of how many people are on some sort of pharmaceutical, and it's I think it's north of 50% or something.
Yeah,
right? At least in the United States.
Yeah.
Right? Another reason to learn herbal medicine instead, right? Here we got a new chat from Darth Vader is Canadian. He says, it's all about money cheaper to make. I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but yes. Alexander says dopaminergic. That's the word. It looks like we're about half an hour behind on the chat here. Eleanor says, Darth Vader is Canadian. Love that name. Timothy says, years ago on med school, one nutrition course. Medical school research is funded by Big Pharma. Exactly. One course. Yep. Darth Vader says, there is no money in a cure. Small countertop or closet hydroponic systems.
I would say, depends on what you mean by money exactly, because currency, there's no currency, there's no fiat there. But depending on how exactly you define money as, maybe more towards the wealth, there's plenty of wealth in health. But there's no dollars, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's another philosophy that I talk about on this channel. If you do it, the money will come eventually. Like if you focus on this, the wealth, the true wealth, eventually the money will come. And I think that the internet, there's a lot of like what we're doing here. sharing information is actually very profitable for a lot of people. And if you can figure out a way to share what you know in that way, with the adapting with the times, adapting with the technology of the times, you can find a way to make money off of it, even if it's not directly through selling cures, for example. If you're selling the information of how to find the cure, that's what people are interested in today, in my opinion.
Well, we've been, as a people, conditioned to finding the pill solution. This is the answer. This thing right here, I'll give it to you. People have been conditioned for that. But I don't know, at least in my own life, there's not an answer. There's like a group of influences.
Yeah. All right. Timothy says, Ryan, you need a helicopter.
If you want to pay for it. Helicopters are expensive.
Memory Man says, allopathic model is pure shit. Yeah, that's the Western medicine. Yeah, I mean, like we said, there's positives and negatives, right?
Yeah, I think there's a niche there, but definitely not the only tool to be used.
Yeah. Hannah says, that would be something else. Healthy food by helicopter. Yeah. Time for me to become a village medicine woman. Yeah. Hey, Hannah, maybe that's your calling, right? Again, I feel like if you really open your mind up and think about the way of service, that's what it's about. It's like, if you could do anything, what would you do? And maybe it would be to be a medicine woman. I mean, I think when I look at the world, or I look at our society, or, nearby, we're lacking those, in my opinion.
They tend to hide in the woods. I know a few.
Yeah, that works for you, Hannah. That works for you.
If you want any mentors, I could point you in the right direction.
There you go. Eleanor says, responding to pray over food, have you heard of the rabbit effect? Basically, the idea is that rabbits that were fed poison avoided the effects of the poison because of the experimenter feeding the rabbits talked to and sang and basically loved the rabbits.
Huh. Sounds like an interesting study.
Yeah, we'd have to look into that one. Hannah says, I've never heard of that method, but that's how I've been gardening this year. Right? The stun method.
The stun method, yep.
Memory Man says, BTC is about you being in control of your money. That's right. Ian Park says, BTC is stored energy. It's a fascinating way to look at it.
Stored, energy. The energy, like the effort, the wealth, because money in general is like stored energy or actions. So yeah, you can store that, and it actually holds its value over time instead of getting stolen from you.
Right. I mean, that's what money is supposed to be. It's supposed to be stored energy, right? Like you work, you do your work, which is energy, and in scientific terms, they mean the same thing, work and energy. And then you store it in your dollars. But the problem is, today, they're able to just print $1 trillion with the click of a button, and so they're basically stealing your energy from you. But with Bitcoin, and literally, there's all this energy that has gone into, it's another way of looking at it, right? And there's actual energy in the network, and that energy is put there to maintain the integrity of the stored energy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's analogies to any living system is you have to continue to provide energy to it for it to continue to live.
Mm-hmm. Whatever BlackRock already bought your BTC anyways, so says Mr. Sailor. I don't know about it being stored energy. BTC is a record, a ledger of energy spent. Well, there's energy put into the cryptography of the BTC.
Well, in as much as a dollar holds your energy for a time, because we work, we create things, we trade our efforts for dollars. I didn't create any BTC myself, but I have purchased BTC with what energy is in my dollars, and now it is stored much more stably than if it was staying in a dollar.
Right. Yeah. And like you said, it's because, and in my opinion, it's because of that continuous influx of energy going into the BTC network.
Which maintains it.
Compare that to the dollar, where it's literally being constantly drained of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's some, I don't know, derivatives of BTC coming up, but I'm not as familiar with those. I just know I have my keys, so I have my Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not on a custodian. It's, within my control.
Mm-hmm. Memory Man says, trust Michael Saylor as far as we can throw him. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can throw him further than I could.
When I first was introduced to Michael Saylor, he was kind of getting some notoriety for saying, mortgage your house, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which, if I had at the time, I'd be retired. Well, I mean, I'd still be doing exactly what I'm doing technically, but I'd be a lot more comfortable doing it.
Right.
And my house would be paid off.
If you haven't already got yourself some Bitcoin, it's highly unlikely you ever will. Saylor's selling shares of his company instead of truly encouraging them to buy and hold themselves. Yeah, I mean, he's trying to get rich himself. He's not trying to help people. He's helping people by telling them this, but he's not putting the majority of his life, energy, and focus into helping people. He's putting the majority of his life focus into making himself rich.
Well, and expanding Bitcoin too. I mean, I think that is a service in its own, as he's getting more awareness.
But he's not doing it in order to help the world. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think it's like an altruistic motivation for him.
Right.
And
I think that's an important distinction.
Well, CEOs don't have a tendency to being overly altruistic. There's demographical trends to people who are attracted to being big company CEOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's something I'm hoping to talk about soon. There's a lot of research that shows that companies that do focus on not just profit actually end up profiting way more. And you can actually you can invest in companies. There's actually an index for it, and it outperforms the general market.
Interesting.
So yeah, I'll share that research over time here. My own grandmother is on SSRIs. Yeah, driving me nuts to try to get her off of them.
It's hard to come off of them too, because once it gets embedded in a lifestyle, really it's more like a detox methodology in order to recover from being on them.
Right. And wasn't there a study that came out recently that they're basically useless for depression? Yeah,
there's a lot of research on that one.
Yeah, I forget what the exact study was, but there was something that came out recently that was like they're as good for depression as like placebos or something like that. I forget exactly. Money should be a ledger of account, not a wealth or power opportunity. Right. Hannah says, I'm already in the woods, just needed the healing wisdom. All right, it's 9:04. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about before we wrap it up here, Ryan?
Well, I think we got what I'm doing, what my life is filled by right now, out of the way at the beginning of the stream, talking about what I'm building. I don't know. I guess the one thing I would bring up would be the phenomenon of compounding interest, or effort over time, and kind of in conjunction with my goals for Little Farm Association, in that small steady growth, grown over time, 1%, 1.5%, whatever, consistent effort has like exponential results, and that's applicable in pretty much all aspects of life. But I'm looking forward to the exponential growth of this system which we're developing here for regional food systems, decentralized regional food systems. I'm excited for the exponential growth of that. Now that I think that most of the lessons learned at this scale have been learned, I'm ready to learn new lessons in expanding this.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to see that too. I actually did have a question here on that I think will help you hone in on what you're saying. So it's the idea of angular trajectory, how small changes compound. So what 1% change could the viewers make today that will change their life dramatically in the future?
I think it depends on the situation of the viewer for sure, because each of us have a slightly different trajectory which we're on. So the specifics may be different depending on the person, but just that consistent effort over time is fundamental to a thriving future. The concept of Kaizen is been inspirational to me. Just the small incremental, that's the small steps. Do the small steps consistently over time. What was that Tony Robbins quote too, where people, how did that go? And underestimate or overestimate what they can do in a day, and underestimate what they can get done in a year.
Yep.
Getting our sights focused more into the further future helps us stay on track to our goals, I think. Instead of being so nearsighted, you can get bewildered by all the happenings of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say, if I were to answer that question, just take one action that just serves someone, that just helps someone,
Mm-hmm.
And we always have an opportunity to do that at work or with our family or with our friends, whoever you interact with. Instead of, doing what you usually do, maybe you do this, but if you can do one more act of service or one more act of letting go of your ego in the moment to give someone compassion or to give someone understanding or to do someone a favor or whatever it might be, you'll be presented with those options in your life, and you'll see them more clearly when you practice this practice.
Yeah, and if you doubt that, pray for opportunities for these moments of service, and you will see it paying back, paying things forward. Definitely comes back and pays multitudes to yourself and well-being and just quality of life and happiness.
Nice. All right. Well, yeah, let's see. There was one thing I wanted to talk to you about before I let you go and make it as a plug for the Discord. You should join our Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan's in on the Discord. So you had asked me a question about one of the passages of the Tao Te Ching. I'm going to read it really quickly here for everybody. It was passage 65 from the Tao Te Ching. Quote, "The ancient masters didn't try to educate the people, but kindly taught them to not know. When they think they know the answers, people are difficult to guide. When they know that they don't know, people can find their own way. If you want to learn how to govern, avoid being clever or rich. The simplest pattern is the clearest. Content with an ordinary life, you can show all people the way back to their own true nature." And you asked a question about that on the Discord, and I answered it. Was I satisfactory? What was the question? What do you think about that now?
Well, I have to refresh my memory on the specifics. Let's see. If I remember right, I was commenting on how I have a hard time internalizing this one, in that I value education and knowledge very highly. And the term in there which got me thinking is teaching people to not know. And so your explanation regarding the not knowing definitely frames that better into the context of the Tao Te Ching. The acting without knowledge, the intuition, and moving through life on that front, rather than like the intellectual thinking things rationally and that kind of stuff. It's I think your answer there. So short answer, yes.
Cool. Good. Well, for more of that and more, subscribe and like the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Is there anything you want to share with the audience before we go? You already mentioned your website. Maybe mention it again.
Yep, littlefarm.store. If you're in the southern Missouri area anyways.
Yeah. And even if you're not, check it out.
Yeah.
And lend your support. Do you have a donation page?
Not yet.
You got to get that one up, I think. Mm-hmm. And make sure that you accept Bitcoin.
I'm looking into that. There's some particularities with taxation and Bitcoin.
Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out.
But yes, littlefarm.store. And if you're not in the area, find local farmers. Find local food crafters, find local community, and just plug in with the people around you. It will be healthier for everybody. This is not medical advice, but it's true.
That's what's important, right? Well, I'm here every Tuesday at 7 p.m. with or without a guest. My name's Daniel with The Way of Service. This is Ryan Goolsby with the Little Farm the Little Farm Association. Mm-hmm. And
I'm also often here, but not in front of the camera.
Right. So we love you guys, and we'll see you next week.